Hello, and welcome to SteamLUG Cast. This is Season 2, Episode 3. I have with me Derrida.
Hello, people.
And Swordfisher.
Hey, guys.
And we have no cheese. So, I'm John, and we talk about Linux gaming.
Mostly on Steam.
Awesome.
So, what have you been playing this week, everyone?
Well, I've been playing some Rogue Legacy, still.
Have you finished that yet?
No, and I think there's a long way yet.
Yeah. Definitely got a long tail, that one.
Yeah, currently I'm stuck in the, forever grinding state of the game.
I'm there at the moment.
So I think I'm level 90 or something, so it got a bit stale at this moment, but yeah, I'm working through it. Then I played some Savant Ascent, and that's actually a pretty great game. I think I talked about it last cast as well.
Is that a shoot 'em up?
Yeah, it's up and down scrolling game.
Okay, it's one of those like parallax scrolly sort of.
Yeah, I think so.
I've seen screenshots. I'm just not too sure how it moved or.
Moves upwards like a tower rising shoot 'em up.
Yeah, I get you.
And then I played some Rust, and I cannot figure out what all the fuss is about.
Yeah, I can't either. I've seen quite a bit of it on YouTube, and I don't really understand the bash a tree with a stone, and you'll get bits of wood, and they just sort of flake off. And it's odd.
Yeah, I just closed the game and then went, oh, I'm not gonna bother with this anymore.
Oh, were you playing single player?
No, I joined the server when they worked.
Yeah, it seems like there are only two opinions on this game, and this is either best game ever or complete and utter boring poop.
Yeah.
I can't figure out in which camp I would fall, so I really gobble up every piece of information on that game I can. But I think it is the boring group.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of like a Minecraft. Either you love the creative bit of it and don't want to bother with the graphics and can play it for as long as you want. Otherwise, you just think it's it looks bad, the gameplay is bad, and you just don't want to bother it.
But what's creative about murdering naked people?
Well, some people say it's an art form. I don't know. But you can build houses too. I think I didn't get that far because I just didn't want to play it.
Now, did you play that before the recent update where they stripped out the zombies?
I don't think there were any zombies. I met another player and I saw a couple of trees and a mountain. That was it. I played it 1 week ago, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's the zombies were probably in then. They sort of hang around in the towns and near populated areas. Well, not that they're populated areas, but you know what I mean. Non-rural.
Yeah. And then I played some Gravity Badgers, as you mentioned also, John.
Gravity Badgers!
Yeah, it was quite fun, but yeah, didn't want to play it too much. Would rather play Rogue Legacy.
Yeah, I sunk about an hour into it and then sort of thought, it's got a really weird difficulty curve in that it's really simple and then it just gets a bit silly. And then you have to sort of perfectly guide your little Gravity Badger through the course, and it's just a bit frustrating when it gets to that. So, Derrida, what have you been up to?
Always more Dota, as usual, should come as a surprise to just about nobody. I recommend everybody play the new Phoenix class. I love it. If you play Dota, that is.
Are you playing later with us?
Maybe I do. I have kind of skipped most of the community play sessions of Dota 2 so far, but this one I should stay.
Maybe you can carry me through a game.
I'm not that good, actually. And I played Summer Neo Scavenger. There's a beta update out at the moment that introduces lots and lots of new content, new NPC mechanics that make it possible to not either kill or run away from the NPCs. And it's been a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of controversy around early access and alpha funding games around these days, if you have noticed. But this is a game where I say I've paid for it over a year ago, and it's still giving me new features and is progressing nicely, and I don't regret it a bit.
Nice.
Just like Starbound, which I have pretty much crunched through all the content that is in the game at the moment. And I'm at the point where I say it's progressing nicely, but if I play too much now, I will lose my interest in it. So I wait for a couple more updates to give me new stuff to play with.
That's one of the downsides by early access games.
Yeah, burnout.
Yeah, you should not binge on them. You should absolutely not binge on them, or you will have no interest when they are the most fun to play. Actually,
I think I've gone the opposite way with Starbound. I was really interested in it, and I don't know. After playing a couple of hours, I didn't want to get burnt out, so I sort of held back. But I don't know. I prefer Terraria compared to it, and I don't know what it is about it that
there is still a lot. I mean, the core gameplay isn't even in yet. Even if you think, oh, you can kill monsters, you can craft, the entire questing element isn't in there beyond the tutorial.
Yeah, it's pretty thin.
The progression will change a lot, they have said in their news post on the site. And so I think I will wait till at least that part of the progression is in there, till the quests give you all the new stuff and you don't have to grind down monsters to get all the stuff you need.
Yeah, I also thought it was pretty odd that you could fuel your starship with wood.
You can't anymore. You have to turn 10 wood into 1 coal, and that is what you can fuel your starship with.
Right, but feeding coal into a starship confuses me as well.
Yeah, but you can find uranium and plutonium later, so that's your disbelief.
Yeah, it's sort of lacking the narrative that, because through the tutorial it encouraged you to make that beacon that calls down a ship, but it's easy enough to craft that beacon before you're anywhere near ready to actually defend yourselves from those penguins.
Yeah, unless you entrench yourself, and then every boss is totally easy to beat, because the penguin actually has the most he can do against entrenchment by crushing down on terrain and destroying it. But all the other bosses, they are completely helpless. They have no ranged attack that could hit you through a wall, and they just derp around there and you shoot them through a hole you made in that wall, and they can't pass.
Yeah.
So, and I've also played a bit of Cities in Motion 2, which I kinda like, but that's one of these dead games. You need to have a lot of time to get into it, and you need to be in that mindset for, I'm going to play something really tedious now, a tedious simulation of something that I would never consider doing in real life. That's planning public transport. But it's good. I really want to see a proper city builder in that engine.
Maybe the next game.
Yeah, let's hope. So, John, what have you been playing?
Lots of Minecraft. Coming back to what Swordfisher was saying about Rust, I don't think I'll ever get over Minecraft. I really do like it. I've just been playing on the BitLimit server with Co-Star and a video, actually. Apart from that, I played Serena, which is a free-to-play game that just appeared. It's quite short. I think the controls are a bit clunky. But yeah, it's a nice little story. You can probably get through it in 45 minutes. I recommend you all go play that. Beyond that, some TF2, mostly just sort of grinding through the classes to, get some skills and get some achievements. Euro Truck Simulator.
Another dead game?
Mostly because Timmy, the developer, keeps encouraging me to get back into it. I finally actually loaded up Forced after Swordfisher encouraged me to get into that.
How did you find it?
I don't think I've got the dexterity to sort of perfect those tutorial rooms, but yeah, it's not a bad game. I need to play it more. I've got into it. I don't know my thoughts yet. I think I need to put more time into it. And I played Worms Reloaded with Cheese and some of the other guys for the last event. So, talking about events, since the last cast, we played... Did we actually play Painkiller? I wasn't here at the time.
I think some of the guys managed to play a bit together.
She says yes.
But I was under the impression that the Windows server would allow Linux players, so I set up a Windows server and got all set, and that didn't happen, apparently.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Can we stop that, please? The stuff with not cross-platform multiplayer for our ports. It's really a bit annoying.
Yeah, it's quite a pain.
Well, the developer said the porter, he said he was working on that at some point. So,
So since the last cast, we had Painkiller Hell and Damnation, Worms Reloaded, and TF2. And we had a really good turnout for TF2. Server was pretty full, wasn't it, Cheese? Yeah. That seems to be the one game that we get a really large community joining. So I want to encourage more of the community to play TF2 with us.
Yeah, it's free, it's super popular, and it has a low barrier to entry.
Yep, and I need to practice my backstabbing.
I will practice my backstabbing as well again, I think. I should reinstall it.
We've only got 2 events lined up that I can mention that aren't too near the cast. We've got Counter-Strike Source on the 14th, and we've got a new game, Horde, for a multiplayer event on the 15th. That can be co-op and competitive multiplayer, up to 4 people each, so you're welcome to join us for that.
I have Horde in my games list, but I thought it was based on some kind of board game, but then it looked more like an actual real-time action-y game.
It's a twin-stick shooter sort of thing. You fly around with the left stick, flame with the right, you pick up gold, you burn down towns and buildings, you kidnap princesses, you kill thieves. You generally behave like a dragon.
I could do that.
Yeah. Anyone else? No? Okay. Steam and Valve news. In the last few weeks, they've been pushing more and more of this Steam Music backend, and they finally launched it this week with a load of beta invites. So you can now, when you're in big picture mode, access, for now, MP3s off your hard disk locally, but they're adding future audio codecs. What else? An update that landed yesterday trimmed a load of the packages that download each update, so updates should download an awful lot quicker.
Speaking of the music
Sure.
patch, do you really need an invite to use it? Because I could use it on my Steam OS box.
No, the funny thing is, all SteamOS installs, and if you load the client with -SteamOS,
Yeah.
you get into the Steam Music for free. So if anyone's not currently in Steam Music, load Steam with Steam-SteamOS.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of nice. I have the beta, and it's interesting, just not in the right place for me. I have personally zero interest in big picture at the moment, but I could do with an MP3 or whatever player that I could access without tabbing through the overlay. So if that goes into the regular client and gets an overlay interface there, I might be a bit more interested.
They've said they're working on desktop integration for it, so I assume normal client and overlay.
That sounds nice.
Yep. I'm in the same boat. I don't have a SteamOS machine, so it's limited functionality at the moment. Because I so rarely open up Big Picture to play a game. But
yeah. I have a SteamOS machine.
Nice. Have you mentioned that before?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I talked about last cast when I talked about streaming.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the music thing works fine, except for my MP3 library is 10 albums from Humble Bundle, and the rest of my music is FLAC, which I've written myself.
Yes, quite a lot of people have mentioned their libraries are pretty much all non-MP3. I have a similar situation where only some of the torrented albums I have are MP3. Disclaimer: they're all Elder Scrolls soundtracks, and the rest that I own the games of. So, whatevs.
Absolutely.
TF2. Pretty much 30 minutes ago, got an update that is removing some exploits. It's adjusting some weaponry, doing some other stuff for hats, I guess. And they've been adding in some back-end features for servers to allow you to tag your server with your Steam ID. I don't really understand it fully, but I'm sure someone will tell me.
Then there was this other thing, which I discovered the other day when I read a post from Flippit on Twitter. Oniken is a wine bottle game on Steam, and I've been fearing this a bit because I was thinking maybe the tendency would be to bottle games with wine instead of actually doing native ports. And the fun thing about Oniken, it says it it works perfectly, and then right underneath it says it doesn't work with the controls because of it uses wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was to be expected, and we are actually on a good ratio. I mean, only 2 games of the 200, 300 something games we have now on Steam, that's a good ratio, but well, let's just point these ones out and check if they have a good reason to use wine, or if they don't.
The current confirmed number is 318.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are doing okay.
Yep.
I mean, they are planning to release System Shock 2 in Wine, but they do that because they don't have the source anymore, so that's really the only way that will ever happen. And it's a really old game.
How old is that game? Is that not something that could be DOS-boxed, or is it like a Windows 95?
It's a Windows game.
Oh, okay.
It's a Windows 95, 98 game around that point.
Oh, that's such a shame.
Another thing about Oniken, I looked through the install script on SteamLUG, and if you check the OS X install script, it's some crazy change modding of the permissions for the files. Some of them gets 777.
Yeah, they do look a little overzealous in in what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm more surprised that they didn't sort of ask their Steam handler, are we doing the right thing here? Because getting some advice can sometimes, make your install not that terrible.
There's currently in the chat people talking about the source code for Thief and System Shock 2. I know they have found the source code somewhere, but I don't think it is that easy to just use it now anymore, because I bet there's some legal kerfuffle in there that makes it hard to use source you just find on the internet that could be or probably is the source code for that engine.
Sort of reminds me, I think, was it Dark Rain 2 that had its source leaked? And someone was just hosting it on Google Code. And as much as it's really nice to get code leaks, you can't do anything with them, which is the most frustrating thing. Just completely off topic now. So I put this other link into the show notes, and I don't know if you two wanted to discuss it or if you'd managed to look at it. Jim Sterling does a weekly video cast, I guess you'd call it, called the Jimquisition, and he tackles topics in the video gaming community. And this last week he did Steam Needs Quality Control, and he's talking about mostly stuff that's come through on Greenlight, but some of it, they're titles that have actually got through on publisher backing, like Recoil, and he's complaining that Valve need to step up and properly make sure that games that are being launched through Steam can actually, they run and don't crash, and multiplayer actually works before they're approved for sale. Any thoughts on that?
Well, he is kind of right, but on the one hand, people have been asking for Steam to loosen their curation, and
Open up, yeah.
now that it's happened, people aren't happy either. So what exactly do they want? I can understand that a game should have to be functional. That's a baseline everybody can agree on. That's totally what should happen. They should make sure every game at least launches and the advertised features work. But other than that, do we want more curation or less curation? What is it now?
Well, that's the thing. An awful lot of the conversation from that, people agreeing with them, were developers, game developers, and I think some of them are a bit worried that not having a curated system will bury their games in amongst what they would see as less great titles. But I'm quite happy to accept a non-curated system like Google's, as long as if something says what it is, if it's got trophies or if it got multiplayer, for those things to actually work and be there. And I think when you look at it like that, Jim's point is quite valid, that they are selling games that it's actually quite hard to get a refund until recently for a game that just hasn't worked right.
But the fun thing is, if you check Linux titles, many of them work for some people, some others. So where would you draw the line?
The majority of that is from runtime issues, isn't it? Missing libraries because someone's running a distro that doesn't have a compatible library set. And some of that is obviously down to the maintainer for Steam Runtime should be making sure that games that run through the runtime don't have any of the dependency issues that are currently being flagged up. For a game that, like Duke Nukem, that's got an actual build problem that's looking for a library where it's in the wrong place, then you just think, well, that should be something that Valve should have already poked them about. Do you not think?
Yeah, obviously they should work with the runtime, but Metro Last Light, some people, I have it as well, where when you launch the game, it will only be shown in a windowed mode, and you can never change it to full screen, even change the resolution.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I just don't want to play a 800 by 600 pixel game on a full HD screen It just doesn't make any sense, and it's hard to play the game because it won't capture the mouse as well. So the mouse will run out of the window. And yeah, I can't change the config. Every time I change the config, it will reload when I start the game up, and it will overwrite it.
Yeah, Metro has been really bad in that respect. There are no options, no video options to speak of. There's just a slider, no resolution options, no window mode options, nothing. It's abysmal in that respect. It's a good game.
I'm still waiting to be able to take screenshots.
It's actually a decent port.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Once you get it running, but that there are no options is completely unforgivable.
Do you think some of the issues that they have sorted are window manager related rather than...
Yeah, that was my first thought as well, because when I used Flux back in the days, I had a lot of problems with Steam. Then I changed to Awesome, and I have a GNOME desktop as well, just to check every game I have problem with the Windows, and the error still occurs on my GNOME desktop.
Oh, that's a shame. I mean, I'm running Metacity, and I can't say I've had an issue with Metro, but sometimes it's pretty hard to show a game developer that there is an issue with their title if it just works under Ubuntu or something, and and some advocacy obviously needs to go towards this. So it's hard, but again, I'm not sure how much Valve can do in that regard, because some of that is the complexity of Linux that we've managed to not eliminate on our platform, frustratingly.
But there are also those kind of developers that they check it at themselves and it works fine because they using it in a testing environment instead of production environment. So the game will always work for them, and even how much they test, it will always work. But if they actually manage to set up a new PC with just default distro, it wouldn't launch. For instance, Dwarfs, the game, it bundles some broken libraries. So if you delete the libraries, it will launch correctly.
Yeah, so this is some quality control, some certification could be done to improve the quality for generic users. And I think that's an argument for Valve doing a bit more acceptability testing to just make sure that games work. Right, have we exhausted that? Do we want to go on to gaming news?
Sure.
Greenlight accepted 50 new titles this last week. There are quite a handful on Linux, but we wanted to highlight a few just because otherwise we'd just be naming games and genres and you'd get flooded with information. So check that out. We'll provide you with a link. Crimea, that we've mentioned before, and The Mim's Beginning have both got in. Another game I did see that I just wanted to mention is called Cat Dammit. It's an arcadey action game. It looks hilariously fun. Quite a sort of a fast-paced destruction game. And it's lit in a way that looks like it's a Nintendo game, and it looks really good fun.
Yeah.
No?
There's some other stuff distracting me from the potential good Linux games. It's quite evident that we are absolutely scraping the bottom of the barrel of Greenlight at the moment. They are just getting the titles through that are in there. Take a look at yet another Zombie Defense, for example, that I'm not really thinking that had a lot of traction with anybody.
There were quite a few games that I sort of looked at and face-palmed and rolled my eyes. There are some that are definitely niche games, like Disco Dodgeball, that you think, why would someone vote for it? But, people are welcome to vote for games that they're interested in, even if they're not something I'm interested in. But they do seem to be letting through sort of voxely Minecrafty clones that have guns in them and other stuff that...
Those actually get voted for, I would believe.
Yeah. But again, we can't really complain about curation stopping games getting through, and then, I don't know, it's an impossible problem, I think.
I was actually always on the side of having proper curation, so I'm consistent in hacking a bit on these games.
I'm the other way. I just want people to make better games and stop making shit, but,
I'm actually into the whole add as many Greenlight titles as possible. Because the more games that are available, even though they might not be as good, but the more games that are available, the higher the market will be eventually.
True.
Because then people could play their silly horse games on Linux as well. And I think that is important as well, that everyone can have their games no matter how big a community it is.
Yeah, that's true. It definitely widens the games that our community can have access to, even if we think they're not particularly good ones.
And I like playing some bad titles, because then it makes the mediocre games look better. So I get to enjoy my not as good games.
Lower your expectations to raise your quality of life. You, sir, are a bloody genius.
So I wanted to mention this other game. This isn't from Greenlight. This, on social media people were discussing it. It's called Glitch Pace.
What is it?
It's a first-person programming game. Not in the sense where you have to, stop and type in some Python to open a door. It's very much a sort of Scratch-based interactive, I don't know if you guys know Scratch. You get to see a graphical sort of program, and you move building blocks around to, complete functions that change the expressions, and it can extend platforms and open doors and the rest by interacting with this sort of very simple programming style. And they're targeting Oculus Rift for this, so it's got a very unique art style. It looks like it will teach some basic programming. I mean, it's not going to teach you how to unroll loops or anything, but yeah. And it's got such a minimalist sort of colour set to it. I do like that. I think the manipulation device looks a bit dorkish. But yeah, if we don't want to discuss that, we can move on again. I wanted to discuss some dates for some games that are coming out soon. Papers, Please has said that it's due on the 12th.
Finally, yes.
I know. Everyone's waiting for that. Quite a few people are giving that Game of the Year. That's a border control simulation. You get to stamp visas and check passports and reject people based on their flimsy stories or their dodgy paperwork.
Yes, and I played the demo, which was in Flash, so you could play it on Linux back in the day. And it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, for such a game that does so little, it conveys so much. It's really amazing.
Mm-hmm. The Gunpoint developer has reminded everyone that a Linux port is coming, along with Mac. They're currently rebuilding the game in a different engine so that it's portable, and along with that, it's going to have Workshop added to it, Steam Workshop, which is kind of neat. And Space Pirates and Zombies is going to get a sequel, also on Linux. So, yay! If you enjoyed the first one, you'll enjoy the second one.
I don't know if I enjoyed the first one. I find it a bit strange. I still haven't seen the zombies, but I have not played more than an hour.
I've played the first. It's very odd. It takes quite a bit of time to get used to, I find.
It's somewhere in the realm between economy simulation in space, but also it's very arcadey in terms of the gunplay. And I don't yet know if I like it. I
think it's because it presents quite an easily accessible shooting aspect, and then it piles on the sort of
role-playing and economy simulation.
Yes, definitely the role-playing sort of build your spaceship. It makes it a bit complicated when sometimes you might just want to drop in, and I don't know if it's got an arcade mode. I can't remember. Oh, that's a good point. I completely forgot that Octodad came out this last. Was it last week or 8 days or something?
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I don't think we mentioned that in the cast before.
Nope.
Or someone else describe it.
I haven't played it.
As far as I know, I haven't played it either, but you play an octopus who has married a human woman and now tries to disguise himself as a human with his tentacles and strange articulation, and he flops over the place, tries to look like a regular dad and not get caught out. And it's pretty much Crop, that strange running game in a 3D world with an octopus, I think. And you do more substantial things like shaving yourself and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you can imagine Surgeon Simulator, it's basically it's a game that's handicapped by its control system. But yeah, it's not bad. So we wanted to share some articles with you. Quite a few developers after Steam Dev Days thought they'd write some posts about porting or starting to port, or even setting up your Steam machine to be a development system. Any thoughts? Have you guys read these at all?
I have read one about porting. I think it might have been the stubbing one.
I managed to read the title of one of them and I forgot about it because I got distracted about something else.
Yeah, I read that stubbing one. It's probably the least interesting one because it's very much just a formal explanation of what you should do as a Windows developer to get your stuff running on it.
Yeah, it sort of describes how to stub out functionality and then work on, rendering, input, everything else, and saying that networking's not much of a problem because Windows basically took BSD ports and the rest. But
it's dry and boring to read, but probably very useful to the people that are planning to port their games, which everybody should be.
It's going to be a good guideline for people who already know what they're doing and just want to learn how to do that. I thought the first post was quite interesting because this person obviously had started to port their game to Linux and then had to stop out of some frustration and some problems, and then attended Steam Dev Days and got reinvigorated to do it again. And it was a couple of days later that they finally had it working and everything. So some of that is just a reminder that some determination helps, and obviously it describes some of the pitfalls and some of the sort of niggles on our platform at the moment. I thought it'd be good to link. And then the last one's by the Painkiller porter that we've mentioned already, and he describes how to set up remote debugging on a Steam machine so that you can push your your builds to the system from your main development system, and it should just make your workflow much simpler. Oculus have released their latency tester as an open hardware project. So they've got all the details on their GitHub repository. This is firmware, schematics, STL files, and step files for printing and molding, which is pretty nice.
Yes.
And what is a latency tester?
It's a little optic sensor that they put inside the Oculus Rift and wire it back to your computer, and it can measure the time it takes from your code doing all of its rendering, all of its transmission, and all of its display back onto the Rift. So it can help you to optimize your display rendering, minimize your input latency, and all this other stuff. So even if you've got your rendering times like 10 milliseconds, you can still use it to discover how much input latency you've got. And then if, of course, if it doesn't meet the criteria that they recommend to not cause nausea and the rest, they obviously suggest you work on it more. So yeah, it basically will help anyone making Rift games make games better and cause less nausea. That's all. Speaking
of the Rift, they should make a drinking simulator where it would give you naughties.
Oh, I think all they need to do is introduce a small amount of lag in the screen, and you'd be throwing up anyway.
Yeah, and a bit wobbly, and get black sometimes.
That's just a torture device. That's mean.
I'm gonna make that when I get my LitWorks license.
Could be the next Surgeon simulator if you do it right.
Yeah, Vomit Simulator.
Bundles! All the freaking bundles in the world! Double Fine Weekly sale with all the good Linux titles. Every single title supports Linux. There is. What titles are in there?
I bet Brutal Legend's in it. Brutal Legend is in it! Stacking's in it! Costume Quest! And Psychonauts. And if you not just beat the average, but pay currently nearly $17, you'll get Space Base DF9. I can't say that. Space-based DF9. I still can't say it. I want to say DS9.
Space-Base DF9.
It's DS9.
No, because DS9 is boring. This might actually be fun.
What? Get out of here. It's the best Star Trek.
No, it has practically no spaceship in it. How could it be the best Star Trek?
They live in a spaceship.
It's a space station.
Yeah, a spaceship. They can move it. It's got ion thrusters.
Okay, back to topic. Space-Base DF9 seems to be fixed on the price, but it still is a substantial discount over the 22 euros it is for Space-Base DF9 on Steam.
Yes, it's a steal.
If you want to get it considerably cheaper and especially if you don't have any of the other titles or are missing some of them, it's probably a good grab for you.
Now, Cheese added this other entry in. Double Fine also have their Amnesia Fortnite 2014 running at the moment, and that's also on Humble Bundle. And you can watch some of their streams and other bits and bobs. None of it's going to be for Linux, so yeah, set your expectations obviously low and enjoy.
But you could just run it through Wine, can't you?
Very low.
Should we move on to crowdfunding? I saw the Sinister. I don't know what would you call it?
It's a gamepad, I guess you'd call it. I mean, it's
A gamepad, yeah, like a keyboardy gamepad, a handpad.
I don't know where it's going with that, but it's sort of like a Nostromo, if anyone remembers those Belkin gamepads.
Nope.
It's basically WASD on a little separate USB thing that has a nice little curved handhold. You know, it's meant to reduce RSI and the rest.
Yeah, it's modular at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So it looked like you can get different sort of button layouts printed out for this, and I don't actually know what's part of the Kickstarter, so I'll have a look.
What is a part of the Kickstarter?
Do you actually get to pick, or do you just get a handful of the different configurable stuff as part of your funding?
I didn't see anything related to the buttons, but one of the early tiers is a gamepad thingy, and then on a higher tier you get the handpad.
Just to get some opinions, would anyone here actually use this?
I actually considered funding it because I think it might be the best way out between a keyboard and a gamepad.
Yeah. As I said, I've had a Nostromo. I found it quite useful, and it's far more comfortable for prolonged use. Just with how it holds your fingers. I liked it because it had meta modes, so you hit one button and it changes all the different layouts. So I mean, some of that can obviously be software based, but the way this is targeting it is you can actually swap out the hardware buttons with different modular things. So you know, you can have A, B, X, Y, or a little sort of, they look sort of like up and down buttons rather than scrolly wheels. So I don't know, but obviously it's a prototype.
And every last module would support Linux?
Well, I imagine it's just a USB human interface device, so it should work.
But if it is switching between, I see a real analog stick module here, and then there are keyboard button modules and gamepad button modules, so it has to either expose a keyboard and a gamepad at the same time.
It says it's got an emulation mode, so it simulates a mouse and keyboard, or it's got hybrid mode, where it uses X input. So it basically is behaving very much like Steam's controller, where it can output both at once.
Yeah, then it should work.
And then it's up to the firmware to be sent to it. So yeah, interesting.
I might grab it.
Oh, Roberto Zack says they are supporting Windows and Linux officially at the moment, and no love for Mac.
Meow.
Doesn't make anyone here sad.
Nope, I think no one's going to mention. Anyway,
It's Jesus said.
Yeah, Cheese, I think. Have you actually already backed that, Cheese?
He has.
Do we want platform equality? I don't know. Anyhow, I wanted to mention an update for a game that I've mentioned quite a few times, that I'm also funding, called Nowhere. They're 79% of the way into the top 100 on Greenlight at the moment. I heard from them on Twitter after I was talking about the latest Greenlight updates and said it was sad that Nowhere hadn't got through. But yeah, it looks like within the next week they should be in the top 100. So well done to them.
Hey, congratulations.
Woo! Woo. And I hope, I mean, obviously they're still quite a way off from being ready. So I do want to get them on the cast, and I'm fairly certain they're quite willing to, but it's still quite a while away before they're anywhere near discussing their game. So, you know, maybe at the end of the year, possibly. Another game had an update, Distance, that we've spoken about. It's a low-gravity racing game, possibly. They put out some alpha gameplay footage with some new features, and it is looking delicious.
Oh, like Wipeout?
Definitely has that Wipeout or Extreme G feel to it.
It's definitely got the fast pace and the eccentric color schemes. Yeah, very Tron-like.
Okay.
And unless we've got anything else to mention, I think we're pretty much done, are we not?
Yes, it seems that way.
Wow. Anything you wanted to mention, Sword?
Nope.
Well, that's awesome. Next cast, apparently, we have the Guns of Icarus online developers, Muse Games. They'll be here to chat with us. Beyond that, thank you for listening to our little cast here, SteamLUG Cast. Send us your emails for feedback. It's steamlug@steamlug.org. And beyond that, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, I was laughing.
Stop laughing.
And then you can go out to the stable and, milk a horse or something.
What? Yeah, you do that. No, actually, why don't you milk a horse? Yes, that can be your game.
A stallion.
All I can think of South Park now. Yes, exactly, jeez.
Let's continue to something more useful for our listeners.
Go on then.
Yeah, probably. Well, I was just thinking about Insemination Simulator.
I just want people to make better games and stop making shit.